Well, earlier we have Denise, and then we have another lady. I forgot her name. And they joy. I did not expect anybody will come that early. I sent out the Zoom, and immediately people joined in. And we're like, oh my god,
Hmm.
they will have to listen to the music for 30 minutes.
Oh my goodness, the early birds.
I
I'm
know.
always impressed by the early birds.
Sometimes when I send out a link, nobody would join until the show begin, or like 15 or 20 minutes later.
Right,
But
right.
then today, everybody joined early.
Maybe just keep people in a waiting room.
Mm.
Might be
Yeah,
the way to do it.
yeah, yeah, maybe. So, how's your day?
My day. My day is good. My day is
Good.
good. Busy, but like good busy. Ah, here
Mm,
she comes.
Just hold
yeah.
on. I'm trying to download this background.
Okay, take your time. Yeah, well, thank you, Amaris, for becoming the host. She has a lot of event and things to do, but she make her time and she's here today with us. I'm so thankful.
Well, don't thank me yet because I've never interviewed anybody. So you might question your decision, but of course, for Victoria, right? I will I will absolutely
Oh,
be here
yeah, yeah. It's
Teresa
going to be
interviewed me. I interviewed.
amazing call today.
Yeah, it is going to be a good talk. I have to say, we touched base just for a very short time, and and we were already getting into a great conversation. I said, we have to get off the phone because we have to save this for later.
Yeah.
So good.
Um, that's awesome. I want to ask Teresa about her class. You start already, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Mm.
tonight was self-care. That was
Mm.
really nice and went really well.
So
It
you
was the
have.
first one. It was the first one tonight.
The second one.
Mm,
Do tell.
Yeah, it was nice. It was good.
that's nice.
Yeah, everybody's starting to connect and feel comfortable and more people sharing and stuff. So it was really nice. Yeah,
Mm.
it's good.
I don't know how to get this. I don't know how to get the background on.
Oh, it's okay. If you cannot get it done, that's fine.
I would like to, though.
Um,
You look like you're on your phone now, or
No, I'm actually on my mom's iPad.
the iPad. Okay.
mm.
But I don't
If you have the picture on your computer, I can
on
tell you how to do it.
on
If
the I don't have it on the iPad.
then
Hold on, though. Maybe I can get it on the iPad. So hold on. That's what I was trying to figure out. Oh, you know what? Let me see. I might be able to do this. Let me
how
try.
how important is it, Jasmine, for the
It would make us look better, but if
Yeah.
not, then it's okay because we already look good.
All right. Hold on. Let me just see if I can do it this way.
Jim Schatzel? How are you?
Hey, Jim.
Hello, Jim.
I am very good. It's so great to hear everybody and see everybody.
Yay! It's like a reunion.
Uh,
That's awesome. I want to invite you on this interview for a while, Jim. If you respond to my text, that would be great.
Great. I'm just catching up on a bunch of stuff. I definitely will. I look forward to that.
Thank you. Because everybody that I text either had a business trip or a family trip or something going on in their life, which is great. So it's good to attract everybody here today because we have the lovely Anne-Marie and Victoria and everybody else.
okay. I think maybe this might work. We're gonna try it.
And we have friends from Vietnam and Singapore here today with us as well.
That's wonderful. Now that's morning for
Right.
them, correct?
Yes.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I almost started drinking coffee just so I could have some caffeine. So we could be up.
Yes. You know,
Fun.
every time I do this interview, I do need to have a cup of coffee next to me and water.
Yeah. It's funny too, because when we were in the program, it's like we just got used to you go. You're up early, you stay up late, just to get the work done. And I feel like since we slowed down a little bit, I actually get more tired at night. It's very
So it seems like we should sign up for the next PhD program. I don't know when.
maybe after we get a nice long break.
Okay, I think this is going to work. I think I just finally got it. Okay,
Oh.
so Anne-Marie, I have it on my computer.
Okay, and you're going to Zoom from your computer?
Well, I'm going to Zoom from this. I have it on this thing that I.
Oh, okay. So wherever it is, I think it should be on the lower part of your screen if you can find the video icon.
Right, but right now the picture's in my email.
Oh, okay. So you have to download it onto the device you're on.
Okay, I don't think that's gonna...
It's a good skill set to have.
I'm pretty good with Zoom, but I can't.
Learn on the
you know,
fly.
Yeah.
I'm on somebody else's computer.
I
So
wish I got 8+ hours per night of sleep.
Yeah.
But anybody who knows me, ever did a hat group with me, knows that sleep is my nemesis.
Mm.
Update, I still have not I have not conquered it yet, but I will.
Mm.
I will. Do we have people joining us on Facebook as well?
No.
Okay,
Well,
here we go.
usually
Save to photos. I think
usually when I run this interview, then I would turn on my Facebook Live quote just because I want to get more attention. You can run on your Facebook Live too if you want.
that would require a learning curve back to.
Okay.
I haven't done a Facebook Live in years.
Oh, so it's really easy. So down below, where you see more with this 3 dots, more. You click on that, you will see live stream. And when you click on live stream, you will see live on Facebook, live on. So that connects straight to our YouTube and our Facebook. So if everybody who wanna like live stream on YouTube or on Facebook, we can use the live stream function. And that saves us a lot of time.
Do
That we
do
don't
you
have
mind
to.
if I don't do that tonight? Just because.
Yeah. You don't have to.
Okay, I
I
sort of
usually
got
do
it.
that for recognition, for everybody to get to know this WholeBeing interview. And then one day I discovered that my mom shared the live stream to everybody that she know. And I decide to, instead of turning it to private mode, after the live stream, I just let it be public so my mom can see it and she can share it to her family.
That's great. We could also upload it. We could upload the video.
Yeah.
If you do it on YouTube, we could upload it to Facebook. It won't be live, but see it if you want to have kind of like a catalog on your page of the.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to turn off
so
my
excited.
camera and let Anne-Marie and Victoria run the show. Thank you.
Thank you,
Does
Jasmine.
one come out?
Thank you, Bella. Bella Luna.
Bella Luna. That was a great way to start, seeing that beautiful baby.
Talk about positivity. All right. Welcome, everybody. Good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Anne-Marie Brogan, and Jasmine asked me, it gave me the privilege of interviewing my dear friend, Victoria Wilson, for this episode of this WholeBeing Journey program, which she has so graciously put together as a platform for all of us to get to know each other a little bit better and to talk about ways that we are bringing WholeBeing and Spire and happiness studies to the world. Tonight, I am delighted privileged to interview one of my dearest friends, Victoria Wilson. I'm going to start by giving you her bio, and then we will take it from there. And I'm sure it is going to be an incredibly rich conversation. Victoria is an incredibly spiritual woman and nurturing mom of 3 beautiful souls, 22-year-old boy-girl twins, Cassidy and Matthew, and a 20-year-old daughter, Kaylee, as well as a fur mama to 2 sweet pups. She says, being a mom is my greatest joy. My relationship with my family is the most important privilege of my life.
Lie down.
With a strong background in psychology and public speaking, she went on to earn a master's degree in happiness studies. She is certified as a Reiki master and applied positive psychology practitioner through the Flourishing Center, as well as a trained mind-body skills facilitator through the Center for Mind-Body Medicine. She is also certified as a mental health wellness coach, a RAP facilitator, and a substance abuse and recovery coach and practitioner. Victoria has worked in elementary education as well as crisis and prevention in substance abuse and recovery for over 20 years. Many of those years include a concentration in women's issues and self-care. She is a beacon of positivity, inspiration, and healing, embodying the belief that we have the power of choice. We get to choose who we are and how we show up for our life, how we engage, who we let in, and how we move forward. She believes we hold the power of change within ourselves and is a strong believer in forgiveness, self-awareness, and empowerment. Victoria would like to bring more harmony, happiness, peace, and life satisfaction into the world. She has a passion for helping others, especially women in transition or with life challenges, which reflects in her deep compassion and commitment to personal growth. She has gone through a tremendous transitional phase over the last several years and has learned valuable skills to share with those she gets to work with. Her focus is about fostering connections and developing kindness, understanding forgiveness, and empowerment in both herself and the communities that she serves, assisting others in creating a more fulfilling and purposeful life and finding their joy.
Let's go, ladies. Come on.
I'm just going to make a quick announcement. Can we mute? Can everybody please mute their microphones if they are not muted? Thank you so much. So we can get into our discussion. Thank you, everybody. Victoria, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks. I'm so excited, Jasmine and Ben. Thank you for having this platform, and I'm so excited to be here and see familiar faces. And yeah, thank you for that beautiful introduction.
And I agree, Chanel, it is a beautiful introduction. I did not write that, but I feel like a lot of those would have been my words had I tried to put something together for Victoria. Anybody who knows her will understand that those words very much align with who Victoria is. You may, just a little caveat, you may hear me call her Boop or Schmoop or Geeker or all these little love pet names that we've had over the years. Sometimes they slip out. If they do, it's just we have been friends for the last, I think, Teresa, what did we figure out, like 35 years, was it? We thought it was 30, and oh no, we're older than we thought, and and we go back. But it has been a beautiful journey. So to start off, Victoria, I thought it would be really great to just get, in your words, how you came to be here tonight, because even though Vicky and we have a history with Teresa of doing community theater. That's how we met years ago in Brooklyn, doing community theater. And we had a very rich life doing that. We spent a lot of hours together, and we developed this beautiful friendship that has lasted this long. But other than that, our professional lives and our educational lives were not on the same. We were not on. We all did other things and have come full circle to this moment, which I find extraordinary and fascinating. And so I would love to, even myself, hear you tell the story of how you got to be here tonight.
So first of all, just I want to say that I love the idea, thinking back to how long Teresa and you and I know each other, and all that we did over those last 35 years, and then to think about how we came to be here now, in this program and in this phase of our life, which is amazing. And, for me, I feel like, there's a divine plan and it's mapped out, and I get guided and led to it. And so I think that's what happened. But the way I got into the program, into the master's program, and into the field of happiness and positive psychology, and regrouping with Teresa and Anne-Marie, and then bringing our academic life into the rest of the life that had commingled, was I went through I went through a lot of change over the last several years, and through that change, they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So if it doesn't break you, you have a shot. And so through that change, I started to realize that somewhere along the way I got lost in my life. Somewhere along the way I was these three beautiful children's mother. I was Jimmy's wife. I was Ginny's daughter. I was, all these things, but I had no idea outside of those titles who I was anymore. I had no idea who the person was. I was something to everybody, and I didn't know who I was to me. And so through those changes, I grew tremendously. I mean, what a gift and a blessing. And I certainly would not have said that back then, and I didn't see it back then that way. But it ended up being my opportunity for growth, and and to come into my own. And so I started to seek. I knew that I needed to change and to find myself, and I was set on doing that. I made a commitment to myself to do that. And so I just started to seek. I started to pray. I've always prayed. I've always been, spiritual, but I started to pray for direction and guidance. I started to pray for the right opportunities to present themselves. I started to pray to help me figure out who I was. And little by slowly, it was kind of like one foot in front of the other, and doors started to open up. And I think probably one of the first steps I took, Teresa, right? Was it the Reiki, right? I think that was one of the first steps. Teresa and I, Teresa and I, started speaking. We kind of reformed our connection stronger. I needed good friends to lean on and to support me through my changes. And we both just started talking about dreams and visions and things that we wanted to do, and kind of this new realm opening up inside of our brains of kind of an energy world, and just kind of transcending. And so we decided to go to learn how to be Reiki masters. And we did. And we took the first course, and then we went back and we took the second, and we became Reiki masters. And it was like, that was kind of the beginning of, I feel like, this part of my brain that was underdeveloped, opening up into this idea of wellness and well-being and self-care and grounding and meditation and breathing and resilience and change. I mean, that really sparked this whole change. And then we were talking about, like, what's next? What do we want to do next? And we connected with Anne-Marie, who was in the Flourishing Center, or had just completed the CAPP program in the Flourishing Center. And so she started to share her experience with us. She knew us both really well, so she really believed that it would be a wonderful fit for the two of us, knowing our personalities, our drive, our passion. And so we were like hesitant and, bunch of different stuff. And then we just kind of pulled the trigger, and we decided to jump in feet first. And And we did that program, and that was amazing. I mean, amazing. And it was like speaking to us. It was speaking to my heart. So I started to come to again. I started to, because if you asked me prior, if you said to me, you know, what style house do you like, or what is your decorating preference, or I didn't know. I had no idea. I did whatever anybody else wanted. You know, I just didn't know. And so now I was finally starting to put myself first, I guess, and take care of myself. And then, you know, from there, Anne-Marie and I went to the Center for Mind Body Medicine. And we did that. And then from there, I think Anne-Marie, I think it was Anne-Marie, said, oh, there's this thing called Wahasu. It's this happiness, happiness world summit. Would anybody want to go? And this is what I love about our friend group, right? It's we're all moms, we're all busy, full-time jobs and stuff. And we were like, when? And it was in a couple of months. And we were like, yep. And right then that was it. We were going. We signed up, and that's where our life really changed.
That was because Nikki told me about it. I was doing the other master's program with Nikki.
Right. So Nikki Milligan, right. Our Nikki told Anne-Marie.
He said, I'm going to this thing called Wahasu. I'm like, Waha what? Like, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. I'm like, there's a summit for happiness? Okay. And right when she was texting me, I was in a group chat with you guys and our other friend, Sarah. And I just put it in. Nikki's talking about this thing called Wahasu. You want to go? And it was just
Miami.
In Miami. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And we went, and wow. And we went, and it was an incredible experience to be in a room with all of these bright minds, these bright lights, these happy people looking to share their knowledge and their experience. And so we were kind of eating it up, and we met Tal and Yuval. And so now by this point, Anne-Marie was already in a different master's program, and Teresa and I were really diligently looking at so many other schools, so many other programs, trying to figure out, you know, which one, because I knew I wanted to get my master's. And this is kind of a sidebar, but I have really bad ADHD, and so when I was a kid, I struggled terribly, but I didn't know. I didn't get diagnosed until I was an adult. And so what I thought was that I just was not smart, is the nice way to say it. I thought that I just was not a smart person. I thought that I was incapable of retaining. I was always in trouble for talking. You know, my personality far outweighed everything else. And I was always in trouble. And so an interesting tidbit, we were sitting at the dinner table tonight, and my ex-husband said to my mom, or my daughter said, who do you think the smartest person in the family is? And I'm fortunate my brothers are very smart, and my sisters. And he said, I have to tell you the truth, probably out of your whole family, I would have to say Vicky. And I'm not even kidding you. I could have cried, because I was like, oh, that is the first time in my life anybody has ever said that. Anybody's ever put me in the category of being the smartest person, you know? But anyway, and my daughter was going to cry. She was like, Mom. But you know, it was sweet. But anyway, what was happening to me was every master's program that I heard or saw, I liked this, but I didn't like that. This was okay, but I wasn't sure about that. So it was like I was going to compromise what I really wanted so that I could get some of what I wanted. And I figured that's just the way it goes. And when I met Yuval, and Yuval told me about this program and showed me the information, I was like, oh my gosh, this was written for me. Like, I cannot, this is it. I mean, immediately, I knew it. This is it. This is the program. We met Tal, who was just such a beautiful soul. And on the spot, we were the first people to sign up for the master's program, literally. And so Yuval calls us endearingly his pioneers. So essentially the long road that's how I got here through, and I don't know, I'm thinking about you, Chanel, as I say this. I briefly saw you write something, and really what was probably one of the most difficult, painful times of my life turned out to be the biggest growth, greatest blessing, tremendous rebirth time of my life. And I can look back now and say that, of course, I didn't see it at that time.
That is often the case, when you're going through it. It doesn't feel like that. That's actually a beautiful segue to conversations that we've had a lot over time, particularly in the last couple of years. But one thing that I feel like you're very consistent in your messaging, no matter what you're talking about, and somebody covered it in the introduction, is that we have a choice.
Mm.
We have a choice how we show up. And it's really powerful. It's that word choice is very powerful. It could be used in a lot of different ways. And I think that you are a beautiful reflection of what's possible when we exercise that choice. Because you kind of alluded to having had challenges in your life, and you also do very difficult work. You do work with people, women a lot, who are dealing with very difficult challenges. And, we have this hurdle to overcome in terms of getting happiness studies out there, because people think it's all about being happy all the time. And that's not what it is. We know that that's not what it is. But it's about developing, skills and resilience, building resilience so that we can show up a certain way when the bad stuff happens. And I would love to hear again your take on how you choose to show up. Like how do you move through your life in that way?
So I love that. Who are you and how do you show up for life? When Life on Life's Terms, this was one of my projects in CAPP. It was some of my projects in the master's program. And no matter which focus I looked at, the question was always the same: who are you and how do you show up? And you said right in the beginning of this segue, choice, and that is my mantra, right? We have a choice on how we show up in life. We can be the victim or the victor. We can we can live in the muck, or we can climb out and start to live in the fairy dust. We can, no matter what. That's another one of my mantras, is no matter what. No matter what comes down the pike, no matter what we have to deal with, because everybody has hurdles and has difficulties and traumas and situations in life that that they didn't choose, or that they didn't necessarily ask for, or that they didn't necessarily want. And so what do you do with it? Do you live there? Do you stay in the problem, or do you move to the solution? I am a firm believer in moving into the solution and not staying stuck in the grime. And on a daily basis, as best as I can, and it's pretty often, I just live in a positive light. I am beyond blessed that I feel like God has surrounded me in this spirit, with this aura of light and love. And I choose most of the time to look at the message in the situation, the positive side of whatever might have happened, or because there are some things that I'm not really sure that you could necessarily say a positive side, but the growth or the rebirth or the strength and the change and the resiliency that came from it. And it's funny, I was in a store today, and this woman just had this sour scowl on her face, and she was just so oof. And I thought, God, that the energy that emanated from her to me, I was like, I couldn't get away quick enough. I did my little Reiki cleansing, got that energy off of me, because I was like, God, it is, I wish I could say to this woman, it is so difficult to walk around with the look on your face. If and not lighten up, because again, God, people have challenges and situations, but I mean, we have two choices. It's like you live or you die through it. What's your choice? And so I choose to live through it, and I choose to grow through it, and I choose to hopefully be able to use that experience to share with other people, to grow from. I remember I was dating somebody a long time ago, and at that time he broke my heart. Although again, there's this country song. Oh gosh, now I'm not even going to remember. It's some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. It's one of my favorite country songs. It's Garth Brooks, and he talks about how you pray for all these things and you don't get them, and if you trust as you go forward in life, you see that that it was actually a blessing, right? So be careful what you wish for. And so I had this boyfriend, and we broke up. And at some point, I don't even know why, but I just remember saying to myself, it stunk what happened, and it was sad, but his name was Brian, the guy. And I said, but he brought me, the relationship with him brought me so much closer to a God of my understanding. He introduced me to Jesus, to Christianity, and really, I mean, with a very strong sense of belief and faith. And so, and I remember looking at the situation, and instead of like hating him and feeling like what a waste or anything else, I thought, wow, what a gift, what a blessing. Look what he left me with, and good riddance, like, but he brought something beautiful into my life that I would have never had without him. So let me look at that instead.
Did you hear that? That was my good alarm. One of my many attempts to have better sleep hygiene. But I
have those too.
I think when I was in Jim Schatzel's group, and I'm just going to cancel that. So it's still not working right now because I'd rather be here talking to you. And I'm so sorry that rang after what you were saying, because it's so profound and so beautiful. And it brings up so many different, I could take this in so many different directions. I'm going to hit upon a couple of them. First of all, the idea of a growth mindset. What a growth mindset that is. And it piggybacks on something else you had said to me privately in one of our conversations. You had said, I'm not somebody who always says, we can find the good in everything, because there are some situations that it would be profoundly hard to find the good. So again, we don't want it to be this happyology situation, right, where we're trying to like pretend that it's something that it isn't, right? But you said we can still find the lesson or the opportunity or the growth in it. So that's what I'm hearing. And it's also, again, the importance of reframing and the importance of choice, right? So we have a choice how we show up and what lens we look at this situation through. Because you could have looked at it more like, look at everything he took from me. And maybe he did take things from you, but you'd rather focus on what he gave you. What he gave you was not enough to sustain a relationship in a meaningful way that you would have wanted to stay. But that didn't change the fact that you got so much in your life in terms of spirituality and a relationship with God, or a new way to look at God. And that's another thing that always comes up for me when I think of you, is when we talk about Spire. I think everybody here knows what Spire is, but in case you don't, it is just 5 different areas of well-being. And when we achieve high-level well-being in all 5 of these areas, then we feel that we have achieved whole being. And the 5 areas are spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional. And Victoria has always had a very strong S. Because for some people, S is not about a God per se. It could be about purpose. It could be about nature. It could be about awe. It could be about mindfulness. So there's a lot of ways to explore the S of Spire. And I think you touch upon all of them. But God and faith is part of that for you. And so that came up for me too when you were talking about with Reiki, understanding that higher element that is involved with being a practitioner. So it just seems very much in alignment. And it speaks to your sense of faith too, that, you're moving through this, you're following the path, you're recognizing, or you're trying to be open to the opportunities as they present to you. I'm curious how else you live out Spire. You could, if you want to talk more about the spiritual or just, and obviously doing a master's and constantly reinventing yourself through education. We know you have a eye as well. And now you're the smartest in the family. So there's.
I'm telling you, that just made my night. That made forget my night, my month.
So
I'm going to live in that for a while.
Yeah, well, right? Savor is an important part of positive psychology and positive, right? So savor that. Get the heck out of that.
Yeah. So how else am I living Spire? I would
trying to mute the
yes.
I'm not a co-host actually, so I have no muting capabilities. So if somebody else could mute the microphones, that would be great.
Or Jasmine. Oh, there you go. Thank you. So spiritual, as you said. I mean, there's so many levels for me to my spiritual wellness and growth, and one of the things recently, I feel like I've taken my spirituality to another level in since the master's program in mindfulness and awareness and in my meditation and breath work, for sure. So just kind of connecting some of the areas to bring them all together, which is just amazing. And my my toughest area, I would probably say, is physical in the Spire. And there's so many components to that as well, right? There's our sleep habits, which I've actually been working on. And I as well have my little nighttime reminders on my phone. And I have been putting on meditation, body scanning, meditations before I go to bed. And that's how I go to sleep instead of scrolling on my phone. That was in one of my hat groups, actually, a few of my hat groups. One of my challenges was to stop scrolling social media before I went to bed and to listen to meditation. And so I hit my knees at night on the side of my bed to give thanks. And then I listened to meditation. So my connection, mind, body, spirit has grown immensely. And then the physical, like I said, my sleep habits, my eating habits, I'm working on. That's always a work in progress. My physicality, physical fitness. But I walk a lot. There's certain things that I do. I loved when we learned about Spire and learned about that whole being connection. How important all of these connections are, and that it's not just one thing that brings us to a level of happiness, to a level of living in a positive light, to a level of enlightened self-interest, intellectual. I mean, I love listening to podcasts. I love reading. I love, kind of just getting these tiny grains of sand from people that then just develop into these wonderful thoughts. So the intellectual, and I love conversations, and so it's like my brain wants more now. It wants to continue to develop. And then relational, I mean, to me, probably one of the most significant and important aspects of living a well-rounded and happy, connected, peaceful life is the relational concept, community, and the people that we surround ourselves with. And that's a really important one for me, is that realization of wanting to be around people that lift me up, wanting to be around people that support me, and people that genuinely care about me, and people that would say my name in a crowded room. And I spoke about that woman earlier today, and the fact, and I can feel energy now, and I can feel other people's energy, and it's kind of an ick factor for me when I feel the negative energy. It's like, get me away from it. It actually kind of makes my skin crawl. I want to be around people that are looking at the bright side. And again, that doesn't mean it's not happyology. Life is always wonderful. I don't always feel wonderful. But it's that ability to recognize when I'm not, and to know that this too shall pass. It's, I think, what did they say, 90 seconds to go through a feeling. And so
emotion, the chemical process of an emotion,
yeah,
when it goes through your body, is 90 seconds from start to finish. So
right.
if like an hour or two or a day or a week later you're still feeling that means your thoughts are likely, the rumination of the thoughts is probably triggering that process over and over again.
Right. But if we, there's another saying or thing that I really believe in, and that's, when you're going through something, you have to go through it. You can't go around it. You can't escape it. You can kind of put it, to the back all you want, but it's always there. It's always there until it's dealt with. So if you would just allow the feeling to come and acknowledge the feeling, you could move on so much quicker from the feeling. But it is also who you surround yourself with, the type of people. If you surround yourself with people that are constantly talking about other people, or people that are negative and always seeing the glass half empty, sometimes it can rub off. So that relational and community, and having a group of people that I can rely on and trust and count on, is incredible to me. And I think it's probably, for me, that's probably, if I had to name one sole ingredient, it would be that. It would be relationships, and communication. Communication is the other, great ingredient to success. Is being able to communicate. I tell my kids all the time, I feel like that's always the missing piece. It's communication. People live with 1,000 forms of fear, and they don't know how to express them. And then they don't know how to communicate honestly what they're feeling, what they want, if something happened that they didn't like. And if we would just be honest with one another, and speak what we feel, and say what you mean, but don't say it mean, say it kindly, we'd be much better off. So that's huge. And emotional, and then the emotional, and emotional is another aspect that I work on all the time. I mean, there's a lot that I do for myself. I wholeheartedly 1,000% believe in therapy. I just think that everybody could use somebody that is completely like, no outside opinion, no anything, is just there to, support you and listen to you. So that's part of my emotional well-being. But also, the information that I feed myself, another big takeaway from me through this program was, storytelling and reframing, what I tell myself. I've been saying this a lot. I went somewhere today, and I was speaking to a young girl, and she started to say to me, oh, I have no confidence, blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, so here's what I'm going to tell you. Your mind only knows what you tell it. So tell it good things, right? Because it's going to look for proof of whatever you're telling it. And so if you tell it that you're not good at something, or that it's not going to work, or you're not going to succeed, well, the odds are that you're going to start to move in that direction. And if you tell it, today I can, or, whatever it is, your mind starts to look for that too. There's this, amazing connection that goes on in our brain with neurons and neurotransmitters and all this stuff, that we actually have a little bit of a hand in in the messages that we give and then that we kind of manifest. So my emotional well-being, and when I'm off, it's, I try to do something about it. And there's, I try to never let myself get too hungry, because if I get too hungry, I get cranky and not so nice. And, if I get too tired, so I just always, I kind of try to balance my emotional well-being. And I try to recognize, other people's emotional well-being as well, or their difficulty with it.
I would imagine that you would have to almost set boundaries for yourself too, with energy, just kind of like you did in that store, like you needed to get away from that person because you were feeling the energy. Because as we all know, or as some of you will learn in future modules, it's energy is contagious, emotions are contagious, and the energy that we put out there affects other people, even people that we don't know directly. It's kind of fascinating, the science behind that. So it comes back to that choice, right? What energy do we want to put out there if we have the choice? How do we want to show up? And when we're in a situation where we can't control who we're with and we can't do that, what kind of tools can we use to manage that energy? So I love, what did you say before? Say
what you mean,
but don't say
mean what you say what you mean, but don't say it mean.
I love that. I love that. So simple.
Yeah.
So simple and powerful, like the golden rule.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to say it. Yeah. Something you said earlier too kind of resonated with me, and it made me think of the I don't know if you and Teresa in your cohort with CAPP learned this, but Amelia had talked about an equation about suffering. And I don't remember the person whose equation this is off the top of my head, so I apologize for that. But it was suffering equals pain times resistance. Like the pain is, and however much we resist it, if we don't allow it to be, it was when you were saying that we shouldn't pretend that it's not happening. We have to allow ourselves to go through the process of the negative emotions. We don't want to stay there and dwell in it. But you were saying, we can't just put it off, because eventually it'll rise to the surface. We can kind of wash it down, but until we allow ourselves to move through it, it's going to stay with us, right? And that always reminded me too, like of that equation. It's sometimes the pain is present, but if we keep resisting it, it's like we're increasing our own suffering,
right?
And just allowing it to be, and then working through it or working with it, however you want to put that. So that kind of resonated for me in what you were saying. In your bio, like in the work that you've been doing, a lot of your work has been with substance abuse and recovery and people going through that. Is it only women, or is it mostly women, or is it both?
No, both. So years ago, I worked with teenage population. I worked with 14 to 24, actually, was the age group that I worked with when I first got into the field. And in that program, I was in the program that I was working in, I started to work with women because we would have the whole family involved. There had to be a family commitment in order to help the youth recover. And so I started to run women's groups and retreats for women and daughters, because what we found, and you can see it both ways, but there were so many issues and secrets and pain and difficulty that people didn't know how to communicate, and they didn't have the tools to go through it, or to there weren't safe spaces for them to communicate what was happening or what had happened. There was a lot of abuse involved and things like that. And so I started to develop these retreats and women's groups to support them and to teach them skills to communicate more effectively, to, even if they didn't communicate it to others, at least within themselves, to recognize what was happening, what they were feeling, and to try to learn new skills and new interventions to live with it or to get rid of it. So that was my subspecialty then. Now, in my work, I would say the majority of the people I work with are men, currently in the field that I work with. But eventually, I would like to, as I start to move into a new direction, or add it to what I'm currently doing, like side work, it would be probably either young women, empowering young women, or women, kind of going through a transition phase in their life, and kind of like, okay, empty nest or divorce or loss. And so, like, who am I now? Like, who am I? What is my purpose? What's my passion? And kind of reinventing themselves.
Kind of like you did with yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Exactly.
what you said reminds me very much of what you were saying, how you had lost a sense of who you were.
Mm-hmm.
And how you had to kind of rediscover yourself.
Mm.
And it was interesting too, because you weren't just talking about, oh, what do I want to do with my life, or what job do I want to have, or you were getting even into, if you would have asked me what my decorating style was, I couldn't even tell you that, which I thought was actually, that might have been the most um, touching thing to me. Like it really, that affected me when you said that. I'm like, oh, I wasn't thinking of it in terms of that, but it's like, what do I like? What are my favorites? Because again, it's an identity issue, right? We
Right.
especially
Mm.
get past
Mm.
age, and then when you've gone through what you've gone through.
Mm.
But when you were talking about the women or the youth, and then you had to deal with the parents and the family, and then how you started helping the family because you recognized that need, that there was something there. It's interesting because I think that you said that was kind of years ago that you had started to do that.
Mm.
So much spire in that.
Yeah, that was actually probably 25 years ago.
Now think about that. You were
Mm.
embodying spire. I mean, teaching them about relational ways of communicating, and
Mm.
to manage their emotions, and then to learn new skills, right? Intellectual, all
Mm.
of that kind of coming into play, and obviously anything to do with substance abuse and recovery is going to impact the physical and the
Mm.
spiritual. So there's all of Spire was in there.
Mm.
And that makes me want to ask you now that you actually have this language and the science behind everything, and all this information that you have gathered in the last how many years that you've been studying specifically like positive psychology and happiness studies, how has that, if in any way, how has that changed how you um, teach them, how you support them, like how you move through your position and the way you support people?
Um, you know, as you were speaking, I realized my aha moment um, with the Masters in Happiness, uh, that the program was the idea that there was actually a science behind it. So, I knew, it's funny. So you know my brother very well, Greggy, and when I first mentioned to him about Reiki, he was like, "Oh, you're getting into the woohoo stuff," and that's kind of how I probably always sort of felt in life. Like I always felt on the outskirts to some degree, like more, always felt like the dreamer, and the person that I mean, I loved to communicate. I loved to kind of hold court. I loved to make people smile. I loved, seeking different realms of energy, sources and things. Um, so when I started to connect to all of that, I felt home. And when I heard the program, the master's program, it was like really literally like this light bulb went off. Like I thought, I can't believe that all this stuff is actually real, that I can study it, that there's a science behind it, that I can teach people, because you see, it comes so naturally to me that I just thought it comes naturally to everybody. I didn't think that there was anything special about it, or that there was a science or anything else. It's like somebody that, that numbers are just like, because it's just, that's my innate nature. That is my, authentically who I am. And so when I started to tell my brother about our program, and when we first began, and some of our work was to meditate and all this stuff, and he had just begun school as well. He had retired, and he's going into the fields of psychology as well, but he's not going into positive psychology. He wants to be a psychologist. And so his classes, but he also, I had already gotten my undergraduate degree. And so I was now in the thick of what I wanted to study. He didn't have his undergrad yet, so he had to start from scratch. And so he's like taking all these courses that he's like, dying over, because they're so hard, or they're not what he's interested in. And I'm like, I get to meditate today. This is great. I love it. And he's like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is a program. He's like, if a program could ever be written for somebody, this program is for you. But
same experience we did, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I love the fact, I mean, there's so many things, like so many, with two in particular, I'm thinking about breath work, and I'm thinking about I forget the name of it now. I'm going to call it the $1 million question, but of course that's not what it's called, but whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The miracle question?
The miracle question. That's it. The miracle question. I knew it wasn't the $1 million question. So as I started to work with my clients, as I started to learn some of this, there's this one facility that I go to called Reentry, and it's people that are coming out of incarceration, and they need to kind of reconnect with all of the resources available to them, and kind of start from scratch, in the game of life, and so and a lot of them, so now they're coming out of incarceration, they're big burly, whatever, and I know with almost certainty that nobody's ever asked them the miracle question. Nobody has ever asked them, or even suggested to many of them, that they could dream about anything that they want, and that those things could actually potentially become a reality. And so as I first started to pose it to them, I would say, I would like to share something with you. And, some of you might think it's silly, and that's fine. But I know that everybody I meet suffers from 1,000 forms of fear, right? Most of our lives are about fear and the things we're afraid of. And I would invite you, as you go to sleep tonight, or when you're in a quiet space, to ask yourself this question. Imagine you wake up tomorrow morning and your life could be exactly the way you would have it if you were writing it. What would that look like? And then I would go into detail, and I'm not kidding, that they'd all be like, just eyes glued on me. And I'd say, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, but it might be an interesting thought as you're falling asleep, just to kind of put it out there, right? Because you can do and be anything you want if you really want to. And so that was kind of my first experience with taking what we've learned and then recognizing that there is a science behind it. Just telling somebody that you believe in them. Because with the population that I work with, a lot of people, again, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of difficulties in upbringings, and in relationships and families and things like that. And so Most often people were just getting by. Forget about telling your kid like, rah, rah, you could be something, you could do something, more it was like, you're not going to amount to anything type of thing. And the other thing was the miracle in breath work for me. I learned through Tal how to breathe through my nose and belly breathe. My whole life I couldn't belly breathe. I'd go to yoga. I stopped going to yoga because they'd constantly talk about breathing properly, and I couldn't do it. I always would breathe from my chest because half of my life has been in survival mode. I mean, that's just and a lot of people live like that. It's kind of like you're just going and doing and not stopping and thinking. And so my breath was always up here in my chest, and I had no idea how to breathe. And when he told us, put your hands on your belly, imagine that you're blowing up a balloon, breathe in through your nose. And when you blow out the air, you're deflating that balloon. And it's the first time I ever knew how to do it. And I breathe through my nose all the time now. All the time. It's second nature to me. It's one of the most amazing things that happened to me through that program. If nothing else happened to me, that in and of itself, the fact that I learned how to breathe. And prior to the program, I had already started to do breath work, and I had learned about breathing, but not to the degree that I had learned about it through Tal and through the program. And so that's another thing. A friend of mine's daughter texted me this morning, and I'm on my way to work. I'm having a really bad anxiety attack. Can you help? I can't pick up the phone, but is there anything you can help, do to help me? And I said, okay, and I said a couple of things, and I said, the first thing I want you to do is just, for a couple of seconds, just breathe. That's it, and she was like, that's it. I said, yeah, and we're going to breathe in through the nose, and we're going to hold it. We're going to breathe out through the mouth. And there's a couple of different kinds of breath we can do, and blah, blah, blah. And, and then I, grounding, I said, I want you to look at your feet and remember that is exactly where you are and where you need to be. You don't need to be in tomorrow. You don't need to be next week. You don't need to be in the what ifs. You were talking before, I forget what it was, something that I said you had mentioned, and it made me think about worry. And we can worry about something, and what is the sense of going through an emotion twice? Because there's two things that happen with worry. Either the thing we're worrying about never happens, so now we've wasted all of that time and energy on something that doesn't even come to be, or it happens and we have to go through it when it's happening. So why would I go through it more than that time? So I was able to say to her, the things that let's do a fact check. Is that real? What are you telling yourself right now? So let's just kind of, reframe the thoughts that are going on right now. And all you really need to think about is this moment in time, and what your next step is. And that's all thanks to what I've learned here. And I often use it on people. My kids have gone through, a lot of anxiety, and, my twins are in law school now, which is just unbelievable, beyond my wildest dreams, truly. And so they've had some tough days, and I have to say, and I'll text them box breathing, I'll send pictures, diaphragmatic breathing, like all of this. And it helps. So
I've witnessed you with your kids and teaching them this. And which is nice for me, because I always feel like I found positive psychology late. Like, my daughter Juliana, she was going off to college. I'm like, I needed this when she was in middle school and high school. I needed it for me as the parent, and I needed it for her. But you don't stop being a parent because they go to college, and now now she's out of college and she's on her own, that we can still pass along these interventions. But to your point, we forget that not everybody knows this stuff. And when you talked about breath work, that again, everything, so much of what you're saying is resonating, and that's not just lip service. It really is resonating, because when I had to write a paper to get into the other master's program, and I had to choose a topic, and I chose to make an argument for teaching breath, diaphragmatic breathing to children at
Mm,
every grade level, starting like in
mm,
kindergarten. Because and I was almost angered that we were never taught this as kids, because it's free. It's,
mm,
it's available. It doesn't discriminate. It transcends everything. It transcends age. It transcends gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status,
mm,
everything. It's like it's available to most people. I shouldn't say to everybody, because I know that there are people that have lung issues or other things that
mm.
make.
Right.
But it is such a viable option for so many people, and it is such an important part of self-regulation. And what if we taught kids at a young
Mm,
age how to self-regulate
mhm,
when they're getting into a panic, that they can soothe themselves in real time? What would be possible?
mm,
Wars might be, avoided if we could do
mm.
that. How much would bullying
Oh,
decrease?
listen, self-regulation. I mean, just as you're talking, that's another passion of mine, because I realize and recognize that self-regulation is, which essentially is self-soothing, right? So they talk about when your kids are little, when they're babies, one of the reasons that they suck their thumb is to self-soothe, is to learn how to, bring down their cortisol levels, right? To learn how to come into a quieter state, you know. Um, and I mean, think about it. I said, right. So Tal taught me how to breathe properly. I'm 55 years old. So I was 54 years old. When I learned, I did not know how to breathe. I mean, I didn't even realize it like clicked for me one day that was one of the reasons I stopped doing yoga, because I was uncomfortable and embarrassed, and not embarrassed like because nobody could see that I wasn't breathing right, but I couldn't get it, and it was so frustrating to me. And I thought, okay, I guess I just don't know how to breathe. I don't know what to say. I can't breathe right. Maybe it's not for everybody. um, Nobody taught me, and self-soothing. I see it a lot with my kids, self-regulation, to the ability to, when that heightened sense of awareness or that heightened alert comes upon you, to be able to pause, just pause, and to breathe, and to, I mean, when you think about it, these things are so simple, which is what I love about it. But the truth is that probably I want to say most people don't know how to do a lot of these things that we got to learn. I mean, I genuinely did not know the importance of sleep. My kids. So, Kaylee's 20, she's a junior in college, and then Matt and Cass are 22, and they're in their first year of law school together. And God, they can burn the candle at both ends. And I used to do the same thing. And now I'm like, you need to sleep. Don't you know how important it is? One day you're going to wish that somebody was telling you to go to bed. Uh, and and so when they came home, Matt and Cass, from school one day, they started talking about 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep. We need 8 hours of sleep. And I'm like, okay, really? Now you hear it? Because the professors told them that the work and the content is so rigorous and so draining on their brain that they have to start each day with a rested brain, or they will not be able to keep up. And so that was part of their introduction into law school, was a lot of talk of wellness and self-care and meditation and sleep and adequate nutrition and hydration, all these things, which I was shocked when they told me. I was thrilled when they told me that they were being spoken to about it, and how imperative it is to take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit, in order to perform and to show up appropriately, and being the best version of yourself you can be. I learned most of that through our program. And so if I just learned it at 54 and through our program, and meanwhile, I told you that 25 years ago, I was doing all this type of work and I always had an interest in this type of work, then I would have to imagine that there's a large population that doesn't know, how to do it, that doesn't know, that's why I talk so much about fear, because the truth of the matter is 90% of what goes on in the world is based on fear. People bullying other people is, out of fear. People, fighting with other people is out of fear. People leaving people is out of fear. Let me get you before you get me. Let me leave you before you leave me. Somebody's going to abandon me. I'll do it first. You're going to one up me, so I'll one up you before that. But it's all these, forms of fear that we live with that nobody talks about either, because it's an uncomfortable, there's this whole bravado. Fear doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're small. It doesn't mean anything. It's a natural state that everybody experiences at some point in life. And most people experience it a lot more often than they care to realize.
Right. But, and that, it triggers that fight or flight when we're afraid, but that's meant to be a short-term response by the body, a particular threat. So when we have all of these things that are happening, or we're perpetuating it with our thoughts, we're taxing ourselves because everything is interconnected, right? So when we're having these thoughts, which are leading to these emotions, and we're having them extended over time, and you're living in that state of worry, cortisol levels rise, right? The immune system decreases. It's amazing because, again, now E is affecting P, and then when you're not feeling great with P, you tend to be snappy, and maybe you don't communicate so effectively. That's impacting R. You can't think straight. So again, if the kids are not taught these things for law school, they're not going to get through 3 years of law school, let alone a career in law. They're going to get burnt out.
Right.
And there's so much burnout now.
So much burnout. Oh my gosh.
So, again, just for the way that we can integrate this work, whether you're doing work like me, which is totally different than what you're doing, it's completely different, yet it's the same stuff, and it's serving people in the same way. Also illustrates the importance of it, which is amazing. I want to be mindful of time, and I want to just chat to see if anybody has any questions for Victoria. We will go through that. Otherwise, I do have other questions myself that I can ask. I just want to go through the chat a little bit.
Oh gosh, I didn't even, I don't know why the chat wasn't popping up. So I didn't even know there was so much stuff.
Me too. Cohort reunion.
Yeah.
So Victoria, I don't think you were on yet. There is somebody here from cohort number 2.
Oh yeah.
So I hope you guys are doing well. They definitely changed the structure of the program based on our feedback. You're welcome.
Yeah.
That cohort number 1 went through. Oh yes, yep, beacon of light, absolutely. Okay. So glad that you're all with us. Well, does anybody have a question for Victoria? Jumped on that opportunity, changed our lives. It sure did, Teresa.
Oh yeah, it sure did.
I can so relate to the identity fog where we lose sight of ourselves in different reasons of our lives. It's so true.
Yeah.
We'll make things wrong. World Happiness Summer. Choice on how we show up. Gift. Sleep reminder. Yes, Jim, I'm working on it. I promise you I'm working on it. The greatest chapter, energy sensing. That is true. Absolutely. Great navigation tool. When we become attuned to it, right? Like you, Vicky, are very attuned now to your body. Like the more attuned we become to how certain things show up for us, the quicker we can intervene with one of the things that we've been taught.
Yeah.
So, like I know for me, like generally I am a patient person, and it takes a long time before I get to the point where I snap. And I could tell you in the last week, I have been very stressed, and I've been,
Mm,
and I can tell. That's how I know. I'm like, oh, this is not you. Like I'm being impatient. Um, and I recognize it. I recognize that it's me. So I've been trying to take some extra care, have some self-compassion. Um,
mhm.
I actually think that would be a great question for you too. Like, how do you recognize when you're off? Like, what are your signs for that? It's going to be different for other people, but
Um, Mine is usually I get snappy because I mean, truly 95% of the time, I'm in a good mood. I'm a happy person. I am blessed and I feel blessed. I love life. I, um, I am really aware of the fact that I have uh, been blessed and that I live in grace. I mean, so I am happy, and so when I either start to snap or lose my patience, or if I start to get a little cynical, and I'm not a cynical person at all, at all. I mean, I'm really genuinely happy-go-lucky, and what you see is what you get, and that's the truth. So if some cynicism starts to creep in, or judgment, I'm like, ooh, what's happening? Something's up. And
judgment, that's
yeah,
one too.
I see it
I do,
immediately.
especially the work I do. I do not, I pride myself on creating an environment of non-judgment. And I
Mhm.
did notice that last week as well. I'm
Mm,
getting in my head, not outwardly, but in my head, I was getting judgy. And I actually recognized it. I'm like, that is so not like you.
right. Well, and
It's
so
ugly.
again,
It
in
brings
my
out the
field,
ugly.
so I work in substance abuse, and alcoholism, and in the substance abuse, it's hardcore. And so oftentimes, unfortunately, there's a high recidivism rate, and some people maybe aren't there for the right reasons. They don't necessarily really want to get clean, or there's just all these different components that go on, and we also don't judge and can't judge, because my job is not to judge whether you're really ready to get clean and sober, or when the seed gets planted, you never know where it grows, right? So my job isn't to say, no, you're not ready, or you're not telling me the truth, or and I also hear a lot of things, and work with certain people that do things that I may not necessarily, that go really against a lot of what I'm about. Um, I and I don't, I probably have never shared this in class. I'm in recovery myself for coming on 20, I think it's 29 years, I think, or 28 years in November, which is crazy. I can't even believe that. And so I have a certain way, I came up through Alcoholics Anonymous, through AA. That's how I got clean and sober. And I'm still a part of it. And so I had a certain way of thinking, a certain belief, um, you know, uh, clean and sober from all substances in order to recover. I don't do any mind altering. I haven't had a drink in 28 years, and stuff like that. And so if somebody talked to me about wanting to go a different path, or California sobriety, which is like you're kind of half sober, or well, I don't do this anymore, but I do that, or and I really had to learn to not judge, because what we have to do in our job and in life really is to meet people right where they are, wherever they are, and whatever they're ready for. It's not, I don't know, what I think might work for you might kill you. So if you actually used to smoke crack cocaine, with fentanyl in it, and now you say, well, I'm not going to do that anymore, but I'm going to smoke a little marijuana. Who am I to say that is not what you should do? So I and of course there's so much more that goes into what I do, but but we meet you where you are, and then certainly we try to bring you along to an idea of living a certain way. But but if you don't want to be 100% clean and sober, but you're not doing the thing, you're not shooting heroin, then then maybe that's okay. So it's so important to and not always easy, right? To be non-judgmental and listen. One of the things that I said to you earlier when we were talking was about my ADD, right? Because my ADD is so significant. Really, it's painful, and it's so hard to explain to people that don't suffer from it. But they don't understand. I mean, it's like most things in life. If you've never lost somebody close to you, you can empathize with somebody, but you don't really know what it feels like. If you haven't gone through a divorce, if you haven't, all these things. I mean, it's very hard. And then when you're dealing in the substance abuse world, there's such a misconception that first of all, there's such a negative connotation, and we've come light years from where we used to be, but we're still not anywhere near where we could be in the judgment realm. And when I tell you that the people that I work with come from all walks of life, the thing about addiction is that it hits everybody, or every not everybody, but first of all, everybody in today's day and age knows somebody that suffers. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know anybody. It may not be somebody very close to you. Most often, though, everybody knows somebody relatively close to them because it's just the way that it is today. But there used to be this connotation that meant that these people were bad or ugly or this or that, and I've worked with doctors and veterinarians and lawyers and judges and teachers and, every walk of life, that can suffer from the use and misuse of substances or alcohol. And really all it means, and this is the way that I look at it, right, is that your brain is just wired different. It's like, it's an allergy. So I tell people, if you were allergic to peanuts or to strawberries, right, what happens to you when you take them, right? Can you, if you're allergic to strawberries, can you eat a strawberry and stop the reaction from happening? No, of course you can't, because something within your body and your chemical makeup happens. That is what I believe about addiction, right? Is that there is something and again, this is my belief, right? That, there is something I mean, I'm a family of 5 kids. 3 of us are alcoholic drug addicts and 2 aren't. Why? Why? I don't know. Why do we have that gene and they don't? All I can tell you is that as long as I don't put a drink or a drug in me, I'm in great shape, and I certainly haven't done it for a really long time. And if if I didn't tell you, I would imagine that you wouldn't know that about me, because I live a successful, happy, good life. But if I were to put a drink or drug in me again, all bets would be off, and I'd be back to the races, because that's just how it works. There's a chemical, something in me that happens to me when I put it in my system that makes me just want more. And so a lot of people, especially people that suffer with people close to them, think if they loved me enough, if they loved our kids enough, if they, if they really meant it, if they really wanted to, if willpower could, get us clean and keep us clean, then we wouldn't have a problem with drugs and alcohol in this world. It's not about willpower. There is a compulsion and obsession that happens to people that is very difficult to understand. So anyway, I could go on and on and on about that topic, because it is so near and dear to my heart. It is something I'm incredibly passionate about. It is something, and I guess I chose to say it here, and I wasn't going to, because a long time ago, a friend of mine had told me, if you tell people, like, they're going to look at you in a different light, and it's going to ruin your chances of success in certain areas of your life. And I know that to not be true anymore, because what it really should do is should make me more successful in life, right? That I could go through. That was just one of the transitions in my life that I had to go through, to stop drinking. So, I mean, think about it. Most people, right, drink, whether you drink occasionally or you drink more than occasionally, or you have, a glass of wine with dinner. And I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 28 years, and because I don't know what would happen if I drank. Maybe it's gone. Maybe I could do it safely again. Maybe I couldn't. Right. So is it worth it? I know that every time I quit smoking cigarettes and every time I'd say, I'm just going to have one, before I knew it, I was smoking a pack again. So I would have to imagine that that would happen to me if I ever picked up, alcohol or substances.
And
So,
I'm just flushing your cigarettes down the toilet to make you
yes,
stop.
remember?
But I'm looking at the time, and Felice, you have a question. I see that you have your hand up. Do you have a question for Victoria?
Uh, definitely, I have a question. A bit of an introduction. I'm Felix Nguyen from the second cohort. I'm currently residing in Vietnam, and it's a coincidence that I got to know about this conversation today, and I really admire your spiritual path, your work, and your journey. And I resonate a lot with what you have been saying, and I really admire the work that you are supporting a lot of drug abusing the like people who have been trouble with drugs and women and also of that. And I was so super interested in when you share about after the Reiki class, you got your energy sensing ability, which helped you a lot along the way of supporting, serving others. Um, and I barely share this with anyone, but I got that ability to back in 2012 when there was a spiritual awakening movement and wave and all kinds of that. And from that moment onwards, it has been a tool to navigate through this chaos life, through all the teachings out there, through all the programs and all the teachers and masters to find the right the most suitable one for me. So that's just lovely, and I barely meet someone who has that same type of ability. So that's why I really want to learn more about you, and also throughout the conversation, you have been sharing about your work and yourself, but I'm curious about how you cope with all of that negativity or like low frequency energy throughout your work, because I know your work is admirable and very like sacred and holistic and noble. But along the way, I have done that to myself too, through helping others, and through helping them, I interact with the energy field, and I can really feel that. And there is a whole bunch of science backing up of that from Dr. Greg Fred and all the famous doctors around the world. So I am very interested and curious to learn more how you cope with that through your everyday life, because because you have to meet a lot of people from that background, and it's tough. It's tough. I've been in that for a period of my life, and so that's why I have done that differently. So I would love to learn more from you and share it with us. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that. So grateful. I often think before, if I'm speaking to somebody or something, sometimes I think, I feel like it's so basic what I say, because it's so basic to me, thankfully. So I'm grateful to hear that it touches people. And so two things that I'll tell you that I do from time to time, because I do deal with a lot of low energy. I am graced with the fact that at some point I don't know, it's almost like there's like a shield around me, that for the most part, the negative energy doesn't permeate me anymore. Like my strength in my positive connection and my connection to my spirit is so strong that it just somehow does not seep in most of the time. But there's two things that I'll do periodically, most days actually. So, I have a tremendous faith in God. But it doesn't matter what you believe in, whether it be God, the spirit of the universe, the energy frequencies outside, whatever it might be, Buddha, Allah, anything. I ask always, every morning, please place a hedge of protection around me and keep me safe through the day. And I feel like there's a dome that's put around me, that there's just this armor that I have now. And the other thing that I'll do periodically, if I feel like I've really encountered negative energy, is this kind of really quick, brief cleansing, but it's just kind of to clear away all the energy. And so sometimes if I'm somewhere, you might just see me kind of do this, and then I'll shake it out, and it's just clearing away the negative energy, so that I don't take it home with me.
That's fantastic.
Thank you so much. That's lovely. So I do agree with you. Like I'm having goosebumps, by the way. So I pray to the Buddha and the Bodhisattva. I'm a Buddhist, and I think I'm through the understanding that I learned from the West, all about the frequency, the vibration, the brain power, the true essence, and the truth behind those things. So I approach that with a clear understanding about that. So I apply praying like literally daily, and I can really feel that at the beginning of this conversation, you was sharing about the support, the guidance from above. So there are people, there are beings like supreme beings looking over us, supporting us, protecting us. I can feel that, and I can do feel when praying to certain beings that I do connect to the light and the vibration that's surrounding my energy sphere to create like a protection energy field. But and that helps me throughout the day. But sometimes I encounter people really in suffering. Like you share, you once it was in the shop, and then they was in a very negative state, and you just walking by them and you already got interacted with the energy field, and the energy field got stuck on your energy field. So I did I believe that I experienced a lot of that when working with people in desperate need, in negativity, in negative, and also so that's why I think meditation is key, like visualization, meditation, praying, and like incense clearing, and also that. Yeah. Also crystals. By the way, I'm going to share. So basically, I have a cafe in Vietnam. How can I switch? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to show you roughly my face. So these are the crystals that I have, and this is a cafe that I'm sharing with my clients. So basically, I share specialty with people, but within my coffee sessions with the right audience, then I would discuss about the content of happiness studies and the spiritual the definition about life. So meaningful conversation. So that's what I'm doing right now in Vietnam, and I believe we don't have so much time, but I would love to discuss with you guys more in another topic. And I do believe that through these interview and conversation like that, we would learn so much from each other, because these are not taught in school, just like Anne Mary mentioned just now, like breath work, energy work, and the concept about the universe, the concept about religion, and also that. I did a lot of self-learning and self-practice to be able to get to where I am right now, to navigate in this world full of chaos at the moment. So I believe this meaningful conversation really spark hope for humanity, like in raising the vibration of the planet, and also the consciousness level of the planet. And that's all called underneath what I'm committing my life to, through my business, through my work, through my presence in life right now. So thanks for letting me interact with you guys. Oh, yeah, these crystals.
I'm trying to show you but I can't hold them up. But I purposely brought with me in my little alcove of where I'm sitting, Amory knows what I'm talking about, I brought some of my crystals, and I was holding some of them while I was speaking, just to have the energy and the vibration, fill me. So as I spoke. So thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing. And, we do this every week. So not, but different people, but so I hope you come back.
Beautiful, Felice. Thank you. Thank you for your insight and your questions, and for sharing how Victoria's story has touched your life and is kind of similar to what you are doing in the which seems like a beautiful way to end the discussion. If we had like a minute or two, do I have a minute or two, Ben and Jasmine? Because we started a little bit late. I just have one question that I would leave
Yes,
Victoria with. Is that okay?
yes,
Or do you want me
yes,
to?
please. It's okay. You
Victoria,
run the show.
I'm running the show. Excellent. Um, Actually, it's two questions because Jasmine does want to know. This is her sneaky way of getting you to be an interviewer. She wants to know if you could choose to interview anybody from this program, who would it be?
So, I don't know who went yet and who didn't go. There's some people that I kind of think have gone already. I know that you went, Teresa went, I think Chanel went. So I'll give you four people because I don't know if any of them have gone yet. Vero, Whitney, Jim, or Nils, I would say, would probably be, or Julia actually, but I think Julia might have gone. But if she didn't go, she would
She
be
hasn't gone, but she's gonna go. She's traveling. She's going to be traveling, so it
for a
would.
while. Yeah. So yeah, so that's what I would say.
Hey, Jasmine, I just got you a whole list.
There you go.
All right. So to wrap up our conversation, and for the record, I could speak to you for another like 3 hours. I feel like we were just getting started, by the way. I would like to throw the miracle question back at you. So I know we only have a few minutes, so it may not be possible, but maybe just to share a tidbit of it, or even like a glimpse of it, and then, maybe at another discussion we could flesh it out a little bit more. But I'm curious if you were to go to sleep tonight. While you were sleeping, a miracle occurred. And everything that you ever wanted came true. The problem was solved, the goal was achieved, all of that. What would that look like, and how would you know? How would you know when you woke up that the miracle had happened?
So shortened version of that answer, but what's just coming right into my head. So the first thing the first thing is kind of it's like a yes and no type of thing. Like I wish it, but yet I don't, because I feel like it's my superpower. But would be that my ADD was cured. Because it is so painful sometimes. But the flip side of that is that I do feel like it's kind of what makes me who I am. So I'd be afraid to see the change that could happen with that. But I would, I think it would be, I would love to be a motivational speaker one day. That's kind of my real passion. I love to speak, and I genuinely, when I get started, like I'm so thrilled to be doing this tonight, because when I get started, there's so much that I want to share, and it's so authentic, and it's so a part of who I am, and I could just keep going. So would be the ability to speak anytime, anywhere, with no fear. Because really what holds me back is the fear that I don't have much to say, or, why would I think me when there's a billion other people that could do it? And so that fear would be gone. It would just kind of be this self-confident, happy, peaceful person. And some of that stuff is true already, the happy, peaceful person. But that was able to just fill people up with and inspire people with my faith, and my, share my energy with them, and, and give them the power of possibility.
Well, you fill up everybody who is ever in your presence. So I have no doubt if you could find your way to a stage, I can only imagine the social contagion that would be going on in that room. And I would want to be the first one in the first row hearing you on. So I think that this is a beautiful way to end our program. And so I would like to thank everybody for staying with us, whether you are bleeding into your morning because it is morning and you have to get on with work and life. or whether you are staying up late like us. Thank you for staying with us. And thank you to Jasmine and Ben for giving all of us a platform for sharing what we are doing in this world with this work and this knowledge and what we are hoping to do in the future. And so many thanks to my beautiful friend Victoria for sharing your love and your energy and all the wonderful things that make you you.
Oh, I love you, my friend. Thank you so much. This was beautiful. And what a way to begin and what a way to end with this beautiful baby. That, you know, oh gosh, babies are just, for me, they are filled with love, light, hope, you know, the promise of things to come. Yeah, so having Bella Luna here, but thank you guys. I really, I'm like recharged again, you know, for this work and what we do. So thank you, Jasmine, for being so patient with me and when my ADD was in high gear. And my friend, I adore you. You know that. So I love you.
Right back at you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I love it. We need to invite you again. We need to invite Anne Marie and Victoria for another episode.
We have to do the Pioneers episode too.
Yes, we do have to do the Pioneers episode. Awesome. But anytime, Jasmine, anytime, I would love it. I love it. So thanks. And Chanel, I'm so happy to see you.
Can you send the chat to Victoria so she can see? Thank you, Felice. Is it Felice? I'm pronouncing it correctly. Thank you so much for your comment.
Right,
I want to make sure you see them. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Miss you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night,
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Good night. Great to see
Chanel,
you.
we will have that conversation one day, Chanel.